Let's talk about the golden era of cinema, the 1970s. It was gritty, raw, experimental, and packed with films that dared to push boundaries. Today, we're shining a light on 10 forgotten gems from the 70s. Get ready to dive into a world where every frame is a masterpiece and every story packs a punch. So grab some popcorn and maybe a pen, because by the end of this, your must-watch list is about to get a lot longer. Let's rewind the reels and start uncovering some lost cinematic gold. The year is 1973, and amidst a sea of crime thrillers emerges something unexpected: The Last of Sheila. A twisty, razor-sharp whodunit, it plays like a chess game written for cinephiles with a taste for dark wit and psychological intrigue. Here's the setup. A group of Hollywood insiders, each carrying secrets as murky as the Mediterranean waters, set sail on a lavish yacht owned by the eccentric Clinton Green, played with icy precision by James Coburn. Clinton, a film producer still reeling from the hit-and-run death of his wife Sheila, has invited his friends to partake in a week-long game designed to expose their most shameful truths. But what begins as a slyly malicious parlor trick spirals into a deadly unraveling of lies, rivalries, and yes, murder. Directed by Herbert Ross, the film boasts a dream team of a cast: Diane Cannon, Raquel Welch, Richard Benjamin, Ian McShane, Joan Hackett, and James Mason. Behind the scenes, The Last of Sheila sparkles with the cleverness of its screenwriters, Anthony Perkins and Stephen Sondheim. Yes, that Sondheim, the Broadway genius. Although it wasn't a box office juggernaut, grossing a modest $2.8 million, the movie found its legacy among devoted fans of intricate, intellectual mysteries. Its labyrinthine plot and biting humor make it feel as fresh now as it did then, like a puzzle waiting to ensnare the next unsuspecting viewer. Get ready to question every character and suspect yourself before the credits roll. This isn't just a film, it's a mind game. Mikey and Nicky, 1976, is a crime drama unlike anything you've seen. Directed by Elaine May, it doesn't just tell a story, it grabs you by the collar and drags you through a long, dark night of friendship, betrayal, and paranoia. At its core are two childhood friends: Nicky, John Cassavetes, a small-time mobster whose world is imploding, and Mikey, Peter Falk, his loyal, or maybe not so loyal, ally. Nicky's on the run after skimming money from the mob, and he calls Mikey for help. What follows isn't just a night of dodging hitmen, but an unflinching exploration of their fractured bond. Their conversations feel less like scripted dialogue and more like eavesdropping on something raw and uncomfortably real. May's direction is uncompromising. She lets silences linger, emotions simmer, and moments explode without warning. The film's gritty realism owes a lot to the improvisational style of Cassavetes and Falk, whose performances are as magnetic as they are unsettling. The production was infamous for its delays and over-budget chaos, ballooning to $4.3 million. At the box office, it stumbled hard, making a mere $1.7 million. But its reputation grew over time, now hailed as a masterpiece of intimate storytelling. This isn't your typical gangster film. The Long Goodbye, 1973. Directed by Robert Altman, this neo-noir takes Raymond Chandler's hard-boiled Philip Marlowe and drops him in the shimmering chaos of 1970s Los Angeles. The result? A film that's slyly irreverent, endlessly intriguing, and totally unforgettable. Elliot Gould steps into Marlowe's shoes, bringing a shambling, disheveled charm to the private eye. He's not the stoic gumshoe of yesteryear. He mumbles, he meanders, and somehow he's magnetic. The plot starts deceptively simple. Marlowe's friend Terry Lennox, Jim Bouton, needs a quick ride to Mexico. Then, bam, Terry turns up dead, his wife murdered, and Marlowe finds himself caught in a web of lies, betrayal, and conspiracy. Supporting players like Sterling Hayden as a washed-up writer and Nina Van Pallant as his enigmatic wife deliver layered performances that keep you guessing. And let's not forget the unforgettable cameo by a young Arnold Schwarzenegger in a hilariously out-of-place moment. Critically celebrated, but a box office misfire, grossing $959,000 against its $1.7 million budget, it has since been reappraised as a cult classic. Its languid pace and sardonic tone defy genre conventions, proving that noir doesn't have to be confined to shadows. Sometimes it's best served under a blazing California sun. McCabe and Mrs. Miller, 1971, isn't your average Western. It's a ballad wrapped in fog and melancholy, delivered with an aching beauty only Robert Altman could conjure. Set in the Pacific Northwest, this isn't the dusty, gunslinging frontier you might expect. It's damp, raw, and brimming with desperation, as the dream of striking it rich slips through cold, calloused hands. John McCabe, played by Warren Beatty, is a gambler with big ideas and little more than a knack for showing up. He arrives in a bleak mining town and sets up a saloon and brothel, but it's Constance Miller, Julie Christie, a shrewd, opium-smoking madam who transforms his half-baked vision into a thriving business. Their partnership crackles with tension, part romantic, part transactional, but when ruthless corporate interests come knocking, their world begins to unravel. Shot in muted tones with cinematography that feels like a sepia-tinted memory, the film eschews Western tropes for something haunting and human. Leonard Cohen's plaintive songs underscore the film's tragic rhythm, weaving a mournful poetry through every frame. Though critics lauded it as a masterpiece, audiences weren't ready for Altman's subversion. It grossed just $8.2 million on a $2 million budget. Today, it's hailed as a genre-defying gem, proving that the West isn't always wild. Sometimes it's heartbreakingly quiet. Loving this blast from the past? Keep the nostalgia alive by hitting that subscribe button and joining Vintageverse. We've got more treasures from your favorite eras waiting to be uncovered. Don't miss out. Scarecrow, 1973, isn't your typical road movie. It's an aching, offbeat exploration of friendship, hope, and heartbreak set against the gritty backdrop of 1970s America. Directed by Jerry Schatzberg, this film pairs two screen legends, Gene Hackman and Al Pacino, at the peak of their powers, delivering performances so raw they leave you wondering where the actors end and the characters begin. Hackman plays Max, a hardened ex-con with dreams of starting a car wash business, and Pacino is Lion, a naive drifter carrying a fragile optimism and a secret that weighs him down. Their paths cross on a dusty stretch of highway, and what follows is a journey as unpredictable as it is poignant. Together, they navigate bar fights, prison stints, and moments of startling vulnerability, building a bond that feels both inevitable and precarious. The cinematography captures the crumbling small towns and vast, empty landscapes of a post-industrial America, setting the perfect stage for a story of lost souls seeking redemption. Despite critical praise and the combined star power, Scarecrow earned only $4 million at the box office, a modest sum that belied its emotional impact. Today, it's revered as a cult classic, a reminder that sometimes the most powerful stories are the quietest. Blue Collar, 1978, isn't just a movie, it's a gut punch, a searing look at the lives of working-class Americans caught in the gears of industry and corruption. Directed by Paul Schrader in his first outing behind the camera, this raw drama peels back the layers of the American dream to reveal the fractures beneath. The story follows three auto factory workers in Detroit, Zeke, Jerry, and Smokey, played by Richard Pryor, Harvey Keitel, and Yaphet Kotto. Their chemistry is magnetic, with Pryor's usual comedic charm giving way to a simmering rage that's equal parts startling and captivating. These men, pushed to their limits by dead-end jobs and suffocating debts, hatch a desperate plan to rob their union's safe. But what starts as a seemingly small heist spirals into something far darker, exposing corruption, betrayal, and the way the system pits people against each other. Shot with an unflinching eye, the film captures the grit of factory floors, grimy bars, and the claustrophobic spaces where dreams shrink. Despite critical acclaim, Blue Collar brought in modest box office numbers, reflecting the hard truths it dared to confront. Decades later, it stands as a haunting reminder. Sometimes the real enemy isn't who you think. It's the machinery turning behind the scenes. Assault on Precinct 13, 1976, is John Carpenter's stripped-down masterpiece, a relentless siege thriller with a pulse-pounding score that still reverberates in cinema today. Made on a shoestring budget of $100,000, it didn't storm the box office on release, but its legacy has grown into that of a cult phenomenon. The plot is pure adrenaline. A nearly defunct police station in Los Angeles becomes the unlikely battleground for survival when a bloodthirsty gang launches an all-out assault. Inside, a ragtag group, a cop, a convicted killer, and a secretary, forms an uneasy alliance, barricading themselves against the onslaught. There's no cavalry coming, no help on the horizon, just grit, ingenuity, and dwindling ammunition. The cast includes Austin Stoker as the stalwart Lieutenant Bishop, Darwin Jostin as the laconic anti-hero Napoleon Wilson, and Laurie Zimmer as the cool-headed Lee. Their understated performances ground the film in reality, making the escalating chaos feel almost unbearable. Carpenter's haunting electronic score, which he composed himself, acts like a second antagonist, its ominous, repeating synth beats echoing the gang's cold, relentless pursuit. While the movie wasn't a blockbuster, its tension, style, and unapologetic boldness cemented Carpenter as a filmmaker to watch. Assault on Precinct 13 is a brutal, minimalist masterpiece. In 1972, director Peter Bogdanovich unleashed What's Up, Doc?, a screwball comedy that revived a genre many thought had packed up and left decades earlier. With its whip-smart dialogue, chaotic charm, and unlikely pairings, this film landed a punchline in the hearts of audiences worldwide. The story? Pandemonium in San Francisco, as four identical suitcases set the stage for a dizzying mix-up. Ryan O'Neal plays Howard Bannister, a timid musicologist with a dream to make rock sing. Barbra Streisand is Judy Maxwell, an unpredictable force of nature who bulldozes her way into Howard's life, turning his orderly existence upside down. As they cross paths with crooks, spies, and the hilariously flustered Eunice Burns, Madeline Kahn in a scene-stealing performance, chaos becomes an art form. The cast delivered comedy gold, and audiences responded in kind. With a budget of just over $4 million, the film raked in more than $66 million at the box office, an astronomical return that cemented it as one of the year's biggest hits. Part love letter, part reinvention, What's Up, Doc? Is a masterclass in controlled absurdity. Every pratfall, every zinger, every absurd twist has stood the test of time, proving that sometimes all you need for magic is a little madness. In 1974, Francis Ford Coppola shifted gears from sprawling gangster sagas to something far more intimate and far more haunting. The conversation drills into the mind of Harry Call, a surveillance expert played by Gene Hackman with a quiet intensity that could snap steel. Harry is the best in the business, but his meticulous nature comes at a cost: paranoia, isolation, and a gnawing guilt he just can't shake. The story centers on a single recording, an innocuous-seeming exchange between a young couple in a crowded square. But as Harry meticulously pieces together the fragments, something chilling begins to emerge. The couple may be in grave danger, and Harry might be complicit. The film becomes a slow, relentless unraveling as the lines between observation and responsibility blur. Hackman leads a cast that includes John Cazale, Alan Garfield, and a young Cindy Williams, all perfectly calibrated to Coppola's suffocating vision. Made for a modest $1.6 million, the film earned $4.4 million at the box office, but its legacy far outstrips its financial return. It claimed the Palme d'Or at Cannes and received 3 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture. The Conversation isn't just a thriller, it's an eerily prescient dive into surveillance culture and moral decay. A film that asks, what happens when listening becomes dangerous? New York City, the heartbeat of chaos, becomes a ticking time bomb in the taking of Pelham 123. A mundane subway ride morphs into a nerve-shredding ordeal when a gang of 4 armed men hijack a train and demand $1 million delivered within an hour, or passengers will die. The leader, codenamed Mr. Blue, is played with icy precision by Robert Shaw, while Walter Matthau's transit authority Lieutenant Garber must outsmart them in a race against the clock. Tension hums throughout this 1974 thriller, directed by Joseph Sargent. It's not just a cat-and-mouse game, it's a masterclass in suspense. The hijackers are ruthless, yet frighteningly methodical, while Garber and his team are scrambling to turn limited resources into a miracle. The ensemble cast is as sharp as the dialogue: Shaw's cold menace, Matthau's world-weary charm, and Martin Balsam's jittery nervousness. Even New York itself feels alive, its gritty streets and crowded subway tunnels pulsing with desperation. Produced for $3.8 million, the film raked in $18.7 million at the box office, a commercial hit that cemented its legacy. Critics hailed it for its taut pacing and sardonic wit, a perfect blend of white-knuckle action and dark humor. That final twist? It lingers, like the echo of a train pulling into an empty station. Every story has a rhythm, a beat that lingers long after the credits roll. And here at Vintage Verse, we bring those echoes back to life. From the bold colors of Technicolor dreams to the shadows of 1970s grit, we dive deep into the forgotten treasures, the missteps, and the golden moments of cinema, tech, and culture that shaped generations. So, which movie will you watch next? What piece of the past sparks your imagination? Drop it in the comments below. Let's make this a time machine fueled by your curiosity. And if you want to keep delving into these timeless tales, don't just click away. Hit subscribe and ring the bell, because the best way to preserve history is to share it. Let's keep this journey alive, one vintage moment at a time. This is Vintage Verse, where the past is forever present.